Background check for CNA. So in this video we're going to go over some things to consider in when it comes to CNA background checks. And if you go to sheriffsdepartment.net, we have provided multiple states, all 50 states, local resources, and I'll go into that shortly. What we're going to use, I'm going to use the state of Maryland as an example. Most states will have a very similar process. Some states are slightly more difficult, but the process is pretty much going to be the same. But I got to pick a state here just to go over the essential things when it comes to background checks. So at the state level, you have certain databases that you're actually able to look up for free, like sexual offender registry, prison records, business lookup, court records at times, in recorder's office. Now, if you wanted to do an official criminal record check, these do come with fees. Like in the example of Maryland here, it's going to be $18 for just a state-only check, and then $31.25 with a state plus an FBI check, which is more nationalized. So it gets into it gets very detailed within the state of Maryland, and then it gives you like a quick overview of what's going on nationally, at least in terms of criminal records. And so you're able to each state will have very similar service that they provide. Sometimes they'll use fingerprints, sometimes you're able to do a name-only check. It just depends, but this is provided by the state. Sometimes they do use third-party providers and they will let you know who their preferred providers are going to be. Your second option is court records. And anytime somebody gets arrested, anytime there's some kind of a civil case, you will be able to locate these records, because court records are considered public record. And so a lot of states some states will have a statewide database that you can use. Some states you'll have to do this at the county level, and we do provide for each state the most populous counties. You're able to find their court record databases and some instructions on how to use them. So another thing to consider is a nursing license lookup, and I'm focusing on the state of Maryland for this example. And it's some nurses might have been moving around from state to state, so each state has its own database, and you can look up a licensee, a professional licensee, and verify if the license is active, if there has been any issues, if anything maybe needs to be looked at more. But these are limited to a particular state, in this case Maryland. So it's a good idea to see what's going on in maybe neighboring states, and maybe in states where a previous address shows up. Whatever needs to be done, this is something that should be looked at also. Some other databases to consider is sexual offender registry, incarceration records, maybe possibly even driving records. But what we have at sheriffsdepartment.net is local resources. We have done the research for background checks, for criminal records, court records, inmate search, vital record, warrant search. Maybe not all of these things are going to be needed, but you'll be able to find something official, something local that you're able to use, or at least get instructions from on how to proceed and do this correctly. So I'm going to drop a link in the description. You can also just type in sheriffsdepartment.net in your browser and get started.